Hello, everybody. My name is Henry Kilpatrick, and I am the Managing Director of Institutional Advancement here in Jackson State. For those of you that are making a return from yesterday, welcome back. For those of you that, if this is your first session joining us, welcome to Jackson State. We also have some people joining us via live stream, so welcome to those people as well. I can't forget to also, on behalf of the President's Search Committee, I'd like to thank everyone for attending today, today's open forum, to meet presidential candidate Dr. Carol Rothstein. To kick things off, I'd like to first introduce today's moderator. I'm going to have to definitely use my notes on this one. Tennessee Board of Regents Vice Chair Emily Reynolds. Vice Chair Reynolds was appointed to the Tennessee Board of Regents in 2010 by Governor Phil Bredesen. She was appointed to serve a second term under Governor Bill Haslam in 2016, and in 2021 was appointed to serve another 6-term year by Governor Bill Lee. Vice Chair Reynolds, thank you for joining us today and leading today's forum.
Thank you, Henry. Use yours at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Henry, very much. And thanks to everybody for being here this afternoon. It's only 98 degrees outside, so thank you for braving both yesterday and today. And Monday looks to be a little bit more of the same, so we'll see where the journey goes. Your attendance today, as you know, is so pivotal to this search process. And Henry mentioned the search committee. I would be remiss if I didn't note to you guys the presence of your colleagues in this room, Tim Dellinger, Carla Simpson, Tammy Prater, and Ellie Pugh, who was one of the student representatives on the search committee. We've all been doing most of this by Zoom, so it's nice to be in the same room together and to have a chance to visit for a moment. These searches are one of the most important things that the Chancellor and the Board of Regents undertake, because we know at the end of the day, having the right person as your president makes all the difference in the world. So from the first open forum where we heard comments and concerns from the college community to our three candidates being here over these few days, this is an important process, and we are just honored that each and every one of you are here and for all you do for Jackson State. So thank you all. Henry was nice to mention my appointment to the Board of Regents. It has been 13 years that I've had the privilege to serve on this board, and it's been a great ride and one of the great honors of my life. So chatting with some of you today, thanks again for all you do for our system. It means the world. So we're going to open with Dr. Rothstein saying a few words, giving us about a 5-6 minute overview of her career, her experience in higher ed, her qualifications, and most especially, why do you want to be the next president of Jackson State Community College? So why don't I stop? We'll then turn to the questions you guys have submitted. Henry's going to help me on time. So we're going to have a robust hour together. Once again, Dr. Rothstein, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. First, I want to say thank you to everyone that's here in person and virtually. I know coming in and spending your time here to make an important decision. And so I appreciate your time. I want to first start talking about why I love the work that we do and why I have a passion for this work. I am from a small town in West Virginia, and I'm a first-generation high school student. Both of my parents dropped out of school in the 8th grade. And so when I graduated high school, there was really no expectation for me to go to college, and they didn't know how to help me. They couldn't help me navigate college. And so I went to work, and I started taking some classes at the community college in the evening, but I felt very overwhelmed and a little bit aimless. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know if I was even doing it right or where I was headed. And so I stopped out and focused on my family. And, I have 3 children. And when my daughter was about 5 years old, kindergarten, somebody asked her, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And she said she wanted to be a nothing like her mom. And, that really struck me that I was not setting an example for my children. I wanted them to know that I valued education, and I wanted my children, especially my daughters, to see me as an educated woman. And so I went back to school and finished my degree. And I started working at a rural community college, very similar to Jackson State. We had some urban, but mostly rural. And I worked as an admissions counselor. And I fell in love with the work that I was doing. Every day, I was helping people like me navigate college. I was helping them, giving them guidance and support that my parents, as wonderful as they are, they just couldn't help me navigate that. So I was able to do that for others. And, I became more connected to the mission of the college, became a faculty member, and I realized this was my purpose. This was my passion. I loved meeting students where they are. I loved empowering them through education, and I loved connecting them with opportunities for their future. And when I was asked by the college president to open a campus in my hometown, I get a little emotional because I know what that meant for my community. And that's when I decided that I can make the biggest impact through leadership. And I wanted to be a college president so I could make the biggest impact on a community. So I've been very intentional for the last 10 years to really focus on broad experience. I wanted to make sure that I knew every part of the college so I could be an effective president. I've worked in student services. I've been a faculty member. I've been a campus director. I've worked as the dean of instruction, overseeing everything from the testing center, tutoring, the library, our early college programs, overseeing curriculum and assessment and the academic divisions, learning technology and online learning. And now I'm the vice president of academic affairs and workforce development at Nashville State, working to create short-term training opportunities, long-term training opportunities, those short-term, long-term credentials and associate degree programs, helping individuals in Nashville connect with education. And I want to circle back a little bit to my daughter who wanted to be a nothing. She's going to graduate from MTSU this fall. And so that really speaks to the power of education to change a family tree. From my parents who had an 8th grade education, struggled in poverty, to my children who all went to community college and then transferred and graduated or will graduate. That's just an expectation now. And so that's what I want to do for our students, do for Jackson State communities. And when I learned about Jackson State's presidency position. I was thrilled. I never had a timeline. I knew I wanted to be a president, and so I've been preparing for that, but I never had a timeline. I never had a date of when I wanted to be a president. But when I learned about this, to me, it felt perfect. It was always about the right institution, the right time, and the right fit. West Tennessee is basically my backyard. I live in Dixon, Tennessee. I live in Dixon because it's a small rural community, and that's where I feel my heart is helping the rural communities. It's also part of the TBR system. I can attest to the support that TBR provides its colleges. I've worked in 3 different states, and so for me, it's important to be part of the TBR system. I love Tennessee. It's where I've always wanted to live. And we were talking that my daughter's name is Peyton, and we have always have a connection to Tennessee. We always wanted to be here, and this is where we want to be. And then I know Jackson State has a great reputation for academics. And so there's a foundation to build on, and your core values, excellence, education, integrity, and support for students. Those are things that align with my values as well. So I feel that it's really a great fit. I know there's been challenges. I know there's some different things that, that you've gone through that we need to focus on, but my parents, they couldn't help me navigate college, but they taught me hard work, and they taught me that challenges don't define us. They just show us an area, shine a spotlight on an area that we just need to focus time and energy on until we see the growth and the improvement that we're really looking for. So it's not something that needs to hold us back. We will fix it and we'll move forward. We have a strong foundation to grow from and build off of. And that's why I want to be president at Jackson State.
Are you talked out yet?
Yeah.
I know it's been a long day, so we appreciate your level of energy and enthusiasm. Oh, let's begin the questions then, with your permission. Thank you. Jackson and West Tennessee, as you likely already know, are on the cusp of an economic boom, which we've of course seen occur in other parts of the state. Tell us how you're prepared to lead the college at this pivotal time and to ensure that we're positioned as a forefront leader in post-secondary education. And have you experienced anything of this nature before in your career?
So, well, I would say the economic boom is definitely unprecedented here in West Tennessee, and there's so much happening. We've experienced some of it in Nashville. We have an explosion happening there as well, but on a different scale. So this is a change that is just happening so quickly. It's not a change where Nashville was big and then it's growing. We're growing right now. And so I have something similar, but not on the scale or the quickness that you're really experiencing here. When I worked in West Virginia, we had a similar, not quite of a boom, but we had a lot of companies moving in, Procter & Gamble and Macy's, and the community college. We had to really partner with them and provide space for them and help create training programs for them. And so leading Jackson State as the president is about creating the relationships, making sure we're at the table, we're meeting with those industry representatives, understand their needs. We're in the community, that I'm visible in the community. I'm providing stability for the institution, something where we have a common vision and a common goal that we can all work towards. And it comes back to those relationships and making sure that we're at the table because they know who we are. I'm there meeting with them, understanding their needs and being responsive to their needs as well.
So our second question is much along the lines of what you just mentioned, but you might want to expound a little more. How do you see yourself being involved in the community so that you, as the new president, become the face of Jackson State and the community loves you and Jackson State Community College?
Sure. So some of those things I'm involved with the chamber, being on those chamber, the leadership programs, but also at the chamber breakfast, the chamber events, the networking. I work with Vanderbilt University Medical Center to create training programs for Vanderbilt, but we started with medical assisting and then it goes from there because we've built trust. I built trust. They know they can come to me and say, I need central sterile. We need surge tech, so we're going to offer scholarships to your students. So we have to build from those relationships, and being out in the community is being on boards. I'm serve on the board of Cheekwood for our IDEA Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Access Committee to make sure we're providing opportunities for everyone in our community to experience the arts. Also for 2 years, I served on the board of THEI, which is the Tennessee Higher Education Initiative in prisons, to make sure that we're helping incarcerated individuals transition back to the free world. And so some of that work is building Nashville State's building Nashville State, because that's the work that I was doing, building Nashville State's reputation in the community that we're a partner. I also serve on the mayor's committee for Prosper Nashville, and looking at how do we, as Nashville State and the community and the mayor, connect together to build opportunities. And so that's building your local, your state, your regional, and national to make sure we're having those opportunities. I served with 9 other Nashville leaders on a program for Harvard. It's called the Young American Leaders Program. And through that, I've built relationships so that this week I could have dinner with representatives from Oracle and from Amazon and talk about Ascension. What are your IT needs? How can we help? Be that partner and bring everyone together and they'll know Jackson State because they see us in the community. And then for on campus, being out, walking around, talking to individuals, supporting our athletics and going to events and being out there with the students as well.
Excellent, thank you. Kind of in the same vein as we talk about the college and the community, West Tennessee, as you know, is both urban and rural, which can present its own set of unique challenges in terms of student recruitment. How would you ensure fair and equitable presence across our service area in terms of community involvement and engagement?
Sure. We experienced this at Nashville State as well. We have 7 campuses from urban, suburban, and rural communities. And you have to first recognize what are the challenges. And some of them are similar, but they have those little unique identifiers like transportation. In a rural community, public transportation is usually non-existent. So you have to think about how are you reaching those students? Are you going out to the campus? There's a lot of first generation students in rural campuses that are not exposed to different careers, but also have never been to your campus. But if you go to them and allow them to see all the opportunities and make that connection, they're more likely to enroll at Jackson State. Urban communities, sometimes there's public transportation, but it may take them an hour or an hour and a half to get to campus. And so we have some of those similar challenges, then making sure that they're here, we can bring them to campus. And so in rural counties, sometimes we have to go to them because of transportation issues. And then in urban counties, sometimes we can bring them to us and do the same thing. They have to see us, they have to be able to connect and have conversation, they have to know who we are. And so making sure that we're reaching into all of our school systems and having that relationship, like in Madison with Dr. King, and making sure we have a pipeline. And what are your needs and how can we be part of your career fairs and your college fairs and being out there and recruiting across all of our campuses.
As president of the college, you will be uniquely positioned to communicate the college's vision for the future to potential donors and to the community. How would you take the lead on fundraising initiatives for the college?
So I think everything always comes back to the relationship. So if we go to our entities or our partners and friends in the community with a list of needs, they're not likely to donate because there's no passion involved in that. So it's about connecting and understand what is your passion? What do you really feel that you want to support? And then showing how you can make an impact on our students, but also how that benefits you. Does it fulfill a purpose or a passion that you have? Are you a corporate leader? Are you a business leader? And you have needs in your company. Well, we worked with HCA at Nashville State because they needed patient care techs. Their foundation donated $50,000 to us to start a program. So we had to be at the table and understand your needs and then be responsive. Because if we're not responsive, we're not building trust. And if we don't build trust from the beginning, they're not coming back. And so it's about that relationship, about building the trust, being responsive and being proactive, not just waiting for the companies to come to us to say, what are your needs? We need to go to them and say, do you have needs? How can we help you? How can we all do this together? Because really at the end of the day, it's our community and we're building our community together. So how can we fill a need that you have and how can you help fill a need that we have?
Thank you. So we've touched on the questions that we received specific to the college and the community. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit to a set of questions that are more around higher education in general. The first being, community colleges have historically been known as a pillar in their communities. Can you provide us 2 to 3 specific examples of your experience, including results, And you've touched on some of these already, but in building effective partnerships with third-party organizations such as school districts, other colleges, chambers, local governments, and employers.
Sure. So we partnered with the Urban League of Middle Tennessee on a grant called Advancing Workforce Equity. I co-wrote that grant with them to create workforce training opportunities in communities and also create boot camps so that we can better prepare students who do want to go to credit programs. And part of that is going into the churches to offer the class, going into community centers to offer class, going to where our students are, because transportation we know is an issue, childcare is an issue. So we need to make that more flexible. So that's a grant that we're working on. We're also looking at purchasing a shuttle bus as part of that grant so that we can help students get to where they need to go, but also go into the community to meet them. Talked about Vanderbilt Medical Center. We had the medical assisting program with them. Then we created a central sterile program with Vanderbilt University Medical Center. And now they've donated money to create surgical tech scholarships for our students. And so by partnering with them, creating that trust, it is now snowballing. And now we can talk about, what are your IT needs? Do you need help in your HR? Do you need help in marketing? That we can connect our students to internship opportunities or programs. So that's another, just kind of building that trust. Worked with Ascension and HCA on their patient care tech, but also in their IT field. Worked with Caterpillar Financial on apprentice, and they're taking our students after one semester. So they're not waiting to the end, but we've created a partnership where they're taking the student in the first semester. They're showing them Caterpillar Financial, and they're going through our program as well. So trying to be flexible and creating new opportunities for students.
So all of us always want to do things better, which brings us to the question of what ways have you streamlined processes and procedures in your career to maximize efficiency and overall outcomes? And can you tell us what the impact of those changes have been?
Sure. So I want to give an example of a team effort because it had such a big impact. Is working on our purge list. And so we have purge dates. And a few years ago, we had multiple purge dates. And from there, we were putting students in class, purging them, putting students in class, purging them. And we spent all this energy on just getting students back in class. And so we've cut down the purge dates. And this was a student affairs, academic affairs, because in academic affairs, you're wondering what's the roster going to be like if we don't have a purge date, is this accurate? But what we realized is by only having a couple purge dates that are closer to the start of the semester, we were able to spend all that energy on getting students off the purge list, connecting them with the foundation for scholarships to help them, giving them more opportunity to pay their bills. And we were able to have fewer students actually be purged. And so that's a cross-college collaboration that I worked with student affairs, with finance, with financial aid, to make sure that we're making a difference in students by streamlining the purge operation. And I know it happens everywhere at every college. The purge is a big deal.
So we've all been taught that honesty is the best policy, but what about in communication? Tell us how you utilize transparency in your communication, both among your direct reports and the campus in general.
Sure. When we talk about transparency, often it's about how did you make a decision? What information did you use? What data did you use? And who was at the table when you made this decision? What voices did you hear? Sorry. And then what's the feedback? Can you tell us, if I gave you feedback, can you tell me how you use that, or if you use that, or why you made that certain decision? And so I think that's the important part with transparency and communication, how I made a decision, who it impacts, and then how you communicate that as well. Closing that loop on the feedback, but then knowing the timing. We had a campus that we had to reduce operations. It was a financial decision. We reduced it from 5 days a week to 3 days a week. That's an impact that has, affects the individuals that work at the campus and the students and the community. So it was not something that I just wanted to just send out an email and say, this is what's happening. I went to the campus, met with the staff and the faculty in person so they could have a chance to ask questions and share their concerns, and we could talk through those so they knew first before anyone. And then the president met with the community members to explain what was happening, that we're still part of the community, we still want to be there. We're just going to be there fewer days a week, and then able to send a direct message to students and then to the campus community as a whole. So sometimes it's about timing, who needs to know first, to make sure if you're hearing information and it affects you, that you hear it first. And then also about, sharing what I know at this point in time. Sometimes I don't know all the information. When Follett changed to a decentralized model on campus to a centralized model, I didn't know all the information. And so I just sent out an email to faculty saying, this is what I know. I know Follett is changing their operations. I don't have contact information now, but this is happening. Once I got that information, I was able to share here's who the contact information is for Follett. Here's our local bookstore manager. That changed as well. Here's their contact information, and sent some reminders on processes on how to get your books adopted and those types of things. But being able to share what I know now at this point, that may change, but at least I can share what I know, and I'll follow up when I know more information.
So we're surrounded today by a lot of your potential colleagues, faculty, staff, students, and others. Tell us about a time in your career when you rolled up your sleeves and you got in the trenches with your employees, and what was the outcome?
So I've been in the trenches. I have worked as an admissions counselor. I've worked as a faculty member. I know what it's like working in those different roles when you're face to face with the students and you're in that work every day. When COVID happened, I was the dean of instruction, and everybody was going home and everybody was afraid. And the students still needed technology. They still needed their laptops. Mail still needed to be processed. And so I stayed on campus, and I checked laptops out to students so that the library staff didn't have to come in and do that. And made sure I figured out how to work all the equipment and check everything and hand it to the students. And then I processed the mail. I would go get the mail and I would scan the early college applications into the middle college coordinator and make sure that those things were processed, because we had to keep moving forward. But as a leader, it was my responsibility to make sure everybody was safe. So I wanted to make sure that I did that as well. When our library staff, through different things, we only had one person working for, I think it was about a week or 2 weeks. I went and worked the library for a week for lunchtime, so that they could have a lunch but still serve students. So I learned how to do all the systems and the operations and check things out so the librarian could have her lunch. And so it's about stepping in when you need to step in.
Thank you.
Every time we hear a COVID example, it just reminds us how everybody was in the trenches,
Yes,
right? In all
yes.
walks of life. Kind of in that same vein, and interestingly enough, chatting with a couple of folks in the room, we have team members here who've been here 32 years and another one who's been here 62 days. But along the way, we all need to celebrate the accomplishments of a team. In your career, what have you done to augment or celebrate those team accomplishments while you're also ensuring that others rise to a level of standards that you've met?
Sure. I think we need to recognize our accomplishments, and that sometimes it's just a shout out. When I have my team meet, I have a weekly team meeting with the deans, the campus directors, online learning, and dual enrollment. We have a share the good, so that you can share what's happening in your area, share something that's good. But also what really happens is that somebody, Tim, you're going to share what Beth did and share that good news. And so we're really just bringing, recognition, but lifting everybody up as well. We have a ceremony, a graduation ceremony for our faculty who go through our, it's called AQ, Effective Teaching Practices. It's a certification, it's a year long. We want to recognize how challenging that certification is. And so we have a graduation ceremony. And when they complete throughout the year, I send them thank you notes to say, I know this was hard work. This was equivalent to a graduate course. I want to make sure that they're recognized for that work as well. And then just, send an email. I heard that you helped a student today, and just send an email to say thank you. I appreciate that. So different ways. Everybody wants to be recognized in different ways. What makes you feel appreciated? And so I ask my team members that as well. How do you feel appreciated? What are the things that I do that make you feel appreciated? Or what can I do to make you feel appreciated? And what has happened in the past that made you feel underappreciated as well? And so we can make sure that we're working together to make sure everybody is part of that vision and feels like they have agency in the institution and they're part of it. Going back to how to make sure everybody meets the standard, accountability is important. Accountability is something that can be uncomfortable as we're going through it, but without accountability, we're not meeting standards. And accountability is sometimes just a conversation. So let's talk about what the expectations are. Let's make sure we have clear expectations on how we're going to get there and what we need to do. And so I think that's me holding myself accountable as the president of the institution, that the future success is really my responsibility. I have to own that. But then holding each other accountable as well. When we see something that's happening, let's talk, let's have a conversation about why we're all here and what we need to do to accomplish this shared vision. And I really feel like leadership is about creating this environment where you feel safe, you feel like you can be your authentic self, you feel encouraged and inspired to really connect to the mission and create, be part of the innovation, that you're part of creativity and thinking forward and thinking about how we're going to grow. And so it's my responsibility to create that environment for everyone here.
And our last question is kind of a big picture question with regard to higher education. If you had the power to change one thing in higher ed, what would it be? And how would you go about implementing that change?
I think there's a lot of different things, but the main thing right now is the perception of the value of higher education. So often we hear college isn't for everyone, but I really feel that education is for everyone. And whatever that means, if it's a training, if it's TCAT, if it's Jackson State, if it's UT Martin, education is for everyone. And so we really have to change that perception of the value. We often hear about ROI. What kind of money are you going to make in this program? But what about our purpose? What about our passions? We've got to make sure that if you want to be a teacher, that we're preparing you to be a teacher. We're not always focused on the ROI. We know that if you have higher than a high school diploma, you're going to make more money over your lifetime. But let's talk about what our community good is. What are our correctional programs, our criminal justice programs add value to our community? And so I think we as a whole, as a society, need to refocus the value of education on the community good, individual goods, and economic mobility will occur from that. How do we change that? We need to be in the community. We need to advocate for community colleges. We need to advocate for education. We need to create pathways from a 6-week training program and patient care tech to occupational therapy, to go on to be a leader, a supervisor. We have to create those different training programs from advanced mechanical technician to mechanical engineering. Like, what kind of pathways can we create that a student could choose what their beginning is and what their end is?
Thank you very much, Dr. Rothstein. Well done this afternoon. Thank you. And we're going to give you a break here shortly so we can all mix and mingle here for a few minutes and enjoy some refreshments. Henry, you're going to give us the next steps, I do believe.
Oh, there you go. I got it for you and then I'll help you.
So as part of the search process, Chancellor Tidings and the Tennessee Board of Regents encourage everyone to participate in an anonymous survey. You can go to the Tennessee Board of Regents website and go to the presidential search section of the website, or it's a little bit easier, I think, jscc.edu/president search. This concludes our open forum. For those in attendance, please stay for the opportunity. Like mentioned, you can go out to the lobby, hang out, talk to our candidate, and get some goodies. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate your time. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Well done.
I'm going to mute my mic.